This is a story about artists and their work.
It has to do with taking ideas and things from what you observe around you and finding something unique in that.
Now this is actually graffiti because no one's asked me to do this.
I have a deep-seated need to create.
A prayer for Tibet. It's a young Tibetan woman. And sometimes I have holes in them with glass lenses, and I'll have a rolled up newspaper clipping or a story about the person inside there.
We do the international gift shows and this sort of thing. And so many stores, and we've sold all around the world.
Imagining art, making art, and showing art in a cycle known as the creative process.
Yusuf, that's better.
You know, I love that what we know about ancient society is what the artists left us.
The sea has inspired artists for thousands of years. Today, it inspires Martha Hubard.
I find that I'm drawn to very organic, flowing designs, which I think comes directly from the sea.
Martha is a weaver, and her art takes the form of unique designs in fabrics and clothing. As an artist, she is particular about her materials.
I dye almost all of my own silk because I can't find silk in colors that I like at reasonable prices. I find color inspiration a lot in the sea. I'm also attracted to texture changes, which you often see in the sea. The warp that's on my loom right now is inspired by a limestone deposit in an underwater cave in the Western Pacific. Sometimes I'm inspired by something in the garden or something I see in a magazine or a book.
Martha Hubbard imagines her art while exploring under the sea. But inspiration can also be found much closer to home. A walk along State Street in downtown Schenectady can be inspiration enough for artist Stephen Tyson.
And sometimes I'll consciously have an idea, okay, this is something that's really important and I want to capture this. And so I'll do a number of studies, preliminary drawings, and work on that idea until I capture the thing very deeply. Sometimes it'll happen as I'm just sitting down in front of a piece of paper and I just let the paint flow, and something will begin to emerge and I'll begin to play with that idea, right, and then develop it from there.
Like many artists, Stephen records his feelings and ideas in his journals.
I have a series of books where I jot my ideas and I do sketches and so forth, and things that may inspire me, poetry, thoughts, prose, whatever, and I write it down. Now, the thing about music for me is the idea of vibrations. As some of the early civil rights activists used to say, that the music had a way of charging the air. And when I went to Africa, I felt this. And so my work began to, I think in many ways, reflect this feeling, you know, creating a certain type of atmosphere, and the dots create a certain type of vibration. It really doesn't have a title yet. It's an untitled piece, but it's a work in progress. And where I go with this, who knows?
The next step is to turn imagination into reality. For sculptor Phyllis Kulmatiski, this means a hands-on approach to current events.
I was glad when the museum asked me to do a piece because I had this idea. I wanted to do something using a woman personifying the Hudson River. So I'm making a beautiful woman look like the Hudson River, and her hair will flow like the water, and and write some different things on it about the PCB, the dredging issue on her. I was thinking of putting a vial of Hudson River water in the Hudson's chest in the piece. And I love the physical, pushing the clay around and moving it and making something appear that was just a big block of brown clay, and that's the most exciting thing. And the idea is, because it's kind of repetitive motion the way I build them, and as I'm working it gets sort of like meditative, because as I'm working it's very quiet in my mind, but then sometimes the ideas just change and the piece will just change in front of me, and it's almost like the muse takes over, and it's just a wonderful feeling.
Many artists describe this feeling when the work takes on a life of its own, guiding the artist in the act of creation. It can happen in ancient arts like sculpture, or in modern forms like photography. Here, Clifford Oliver is at work on a project in the Hamilton Hill neighborhood of Schenectady.
I do look for pretty pictures, but I don't just look for pretty pictures. I usually go into, if I want to do something, I already have it in my head, the pictures that I want to do. And I just hope, and I try to set myself up so that the situation will present itself to me. You know, Schenectady is, I think it was such a rich city, and now it's in the shadow of its former glory. This is the picture I have in my mind. You know, a beautiful Victorian, or you can say a Victorian that has potential. I want to see kids with attitude. You've seen the poses. I mean, that's what I want. That. I'd like to see that.
Tell him get under the flag.
Clifford's technical knowledge informs his creative imagination as he plans his work.
Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
You can't do the art without the technology. You can't do the art without knowledge of the technology. You know, you can't, you know, there's certain images I know I can't make unless I have certain film. The art is in knowing how to use that technology. You know, you pick and choose the pictures. There's an art in there. So I think it's a combination of all of that. I mean, I like photography more than painting because it has that element of reality. You know, it's real. This really happened.
3 steps to that crack.
I mean, yeah, we can go on and on. We all have images in our head that have been put there through some fine photographer.
Imagining and making leads to showing. Art shows are one of the traditional ways in which art can find its audience. And this is one of the newest. The internet opens the entire world to artists like Michael Lavery, Jimmy Kennedy, and Andy Stutter of the Hermitage, an artist collective.
We do a form of art called tramp art. After the Civil War, when the troops were on the troop trains going back home, in a lot of cases they didn't have no homes, they were burnt to the ground. So they climbed back up on the trains and they went across the country in search of work. They would use this as a means of barter for like a sandwich or, you know, food, shelter, clothing.
At one time, the Hermitage artists were also homeless migrant workers. They now support themselves through their art, which is in demand by catalogs and collectors all over the world.
Yeah, we literally make thousands of pieces a year. We even have a product line now of probably about 100, 150 different pieces.
They also create large works on commission and to satisfy their own creativity. These elaborate pieces have taken tramp art far beyond its origins, but in spirit, their art is true to its simple beginnings.
We don't do way out there art. You know, you don't have to stand there and look at it and try to figure out what it is.
This may be the other end of the spectrum. It is the work of multimedia artist Lillian Mulero.
You know, I'd say it goes like a spiral, you know, because you repeat certain things and then move in a direction, which could be up or down or sideways. So it's the end result of a long exploration.
Ooh,
Well, these two pieces I'm getting ready to install. So here they are at the studio where I work out what it's going to be like, how many pieces I need to put together. They're all put together with electrical tape. They'll be in the doorway up the stairs on an abandoned building that has a boarded up door usually, or the glass is boarded.
Lillian has taken her art out of the galleries and into the streets.
It's titled up there, a piece called Extremely Different Sports, and it's one of my public pieces.
Lillian turned these boarded-up windows into chalkboards, where her neighbors, and especially the children, can express their own creativity.
On Grand is where I started the perennial gardens for the last 3 years. So this is the result of it, is that everyone in this neighborhood has a garden. Colleen Holton from Grand Street. Colleen is girl power. She has been helping me water the gardens. It creates a platform for people to talk to each other. I get children asking me, is that a worm? Who have never seen a worm. I get older people telling me about their farms, their mother's gardens. Why am I doing this? People ask me that all the time. I do it because I live here and I would like to have things to look at when I walk out the door that, you know, are interesting, that are beautiful, interesting, and make my life more beautiful. My second reason is to work as an artist.
You know, after practice, like anything, you know, when you're self-taught artists, you practice a lot.
You have to always look at different angles of a piece when you're working on it too. You can't just stand in one spot and work it. You have to keep looking at the whole thing.
Well, traditionally, art has always had a sense of lawlessness to it.
I think an artist is someone who creates something that speaks to the viewer.
And sometimes the audience will come up with things that I hadn't even considered before.
But when you see it, you know, if you see it and it like works, that's great, you know. And if it works for somebody else, oh, wow.